Welcome back, everyone, to the show. Still working our way through X-Men 97. Um, Before we get into that, are y'all keeping up with like all of the Deadpool 3 stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just all the little things that they're doing.
It's just constant.
It's nonstop. They are like squeezing everything they can out of this. Um, which I'm sad to say, like there's the new one I have not experienced yet. So they got together. Primary, this is Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, and they put together a silence your cell phone intro before movies.
hmm
And so all these people got to see this yesterday, and then our little theater here in Conway, Arkansas, got nothing.
Hmm.
I was a little bummed because I mean it's out there. If you're online, like everyone's recorded it and they've put it out online. So I've seen so many people react to it, but it was so heartbreaking to see this right before like my movie starts and nothing.
Yeah. I'm
So
Sorry.
I wouldn't be surprised if Alamo is going to play that one or if
mhm,
they potentially got them to do their own because I know Alamo does that
right.
a lot. Like if somebody's here for something big, they'll grab them and be like, "Hey, make a silence your cell phones video." So,
Yeah. So anyway, listeners, if any of you got to experience this, would love to know what you think. And maybe that's like an early question of the day is like how many of these little one-off like type of things do you think they're gonna do together to promote this movie? Because if you're in this world, I think everyone's excited for it. Because we definitely are, and we can't wait. But let's get back in. We are going into we are now on episode 7, so we're getting into like the tail end of X-Men 97. At this point, it's all been released, but we're still going to work our way through one by one. So the biggest thing from last episode is we know that Xavier's back, and we're just kind of like where are things going, like where is this taking the X-Men? Like what are we actually leading to at this point now that we're getting into the finale? Because episode 5 was so big. Some big things happened in episode 6, and it just feels like this huge like cliffhanger. Like where are we about to like really get into? Is this going to be a big battle? Or are we going to get answers finally? That's what we want to know. That's what you want to know. My name's Luke.
I'm Drew.
I'm Elisa.
We are the agents. Welcome back to Agents of Mace.
All right. Well, to kick off this episode, I wanted to start by kind of talking about last week's episode and how it
Mhm.
felt sort of like a slower episode compared to episode 5. And it definitely seems like this episode fit better as the follow-up episode to episode 5. This episode also a little slower. There's like faster parts and bigger things going on, but it is a little more like we're actually getting to see them all recovering and reeling from what happened. So it's just so bizarre to me that they still shoehorned last week's episode in between these two.
Right.
Like it just feels like it should have happened at a different time. I
Reverse it
get,
in some
yeah,
way.
like I get that some of the stuff that happens that episode relates to the fact that this just happened, like this big event just happened, but I don't know. I feel like this would have fit better as episode 6 instead of 7.
I can see that. I can see that for sure. Uh, it's difficult to talk about. Um, I'll have a lot more thoughts once we get to the very end. But yeah, there's definitely a particular moment in episode 6 I would have put at the very, very end,
hmm
and we'll get there. But I do agree, like they probably could have reordered some of this that would make a little more sense.
Yeah.
I think yeah, episode 6 just felt misplaced and threw me off.
Yeah.
And then where we get into this one, and then the ones that are right after, like, are really exciting episodes.
Right. Right.
No, I get the effect they were probably wanting to go for. It's like you have boom, like all this stuff happens, and then we kind of bring you back down, and then we build you back up for, some pretty exciting final episodes.
Right.
Mhm.
But being someone who consumes a lot of content, I feel like I am, I really enjoy this. So I pay a lot of attention to this. There's a lot of content that I don't necessarily like really enjoy, but I'm watching it or listening to it because like, yeah, it's, you know, pop culture says this is the hit new show. All right, I'll
Hmm.
binge the show. Um, so I like watch a bunch of stuff, and half the time, like if a couple seasons or like I watch a season and then the following year the next season comes out and I watch it, I have zero memory of what happened in the last
Yeah,
season.
right.
And I'm to the point where there are some shows where like if it's week to week and I don't just wait for to binge it all, week to week I'll forget what happened last week. So in this, it was like, okay, so this episode starts Gambit's funeral. And my initial gut reaction was, oh yeah, Gambit died. Because it's been 2 weeks since we
Hmm.
saw him die. So it's like, man, you took this like huge moment and you made me wait 2 weeks to find out what happened. And even though, of course, I remember that he died, I did have that moment of like, oh, I was like, whose funeral is this? Oh, Gambit's funeral. So it was like, man, but just right off the bat hit me with a why didn't this immediately follow that event? Um, it's interesting to see Nightcrawler come back because I'm wondering if he's going to take Gambit's place as like a number for the X-Men
Hmm.
or if he came back solely for this and then like we don't really know what are they doing with Genosha. Are they going to rebuild? Are they going to move somewhere else? Um, so seeing him here is like, okay, he's here. Is he staying here? Because we kind of like we know Xavier's out there and he wants to come back.
Hmm.
So are we trying to like build up the X-Men again? And I guess like this episode, there's like a couple hints here and there about like what may be going on, but initially it's kind of like, yeah, what's the goal here? What's the plan? What's everyone doing? We just spent an entire episode watching, Storm magically get her powers back. And I don't even remember what happened. What was the other story last week?
There was a bird that was in the same story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Demon bird.
it was Xavier.
Oh,
Oh
that's right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
that's what I'm saying. It's
That's right.
like,
That's it made me think of like from the office again, the Bears beats Battlestar Galactica. It's like it's birds beats Battlestar Galactica because we had the giant bird and we did have the spaceship.
Battlestar Galactica, yeah.
Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, so there's just like so many real questions that I have going into this episode and even beginning this episode that I was so focused on that I was more upset that like I was having to try to remember how episode 5 ended and
sure.
like where did we leave everyone.
Hmm.
Um so Gambit's funeral, big moment. I don't know that like the statues that they make just canonically, I guess, in like the Marvel universe, in like the comics and stuff, whenever a hero passes away, they make a statue, and the statue is always of the hero in their costume. And that's weird, right? I mean, I guess that's how people know them, but like usually they're buried on some sort of like superhero property in like a special cemetery. So I feel like why wouldn't you just have like Gambit as Gambit?
I mean, I guess that's kind of what we do with statues too. Like whenever we have a statue of like a war person, they're usually in their uniform, not in their gym jams.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I guess
Mm.
you're right. I didn't
I
really
mean,
think of that.
it would be a lot nicer. I'd be like, hey, he's just like us if they were. But I guess it's just however you associate them. That's how they're dressed. And if most
Yeah.
people associate them with their superhero identity, maybe that's why. I don't think I see a whole bunch of statues where people are just being dudes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but it could have just been his head or something, like a
Like a
bust.
bust.
Yeah, I
It
don't
would have been
know.
classy.
Full statue is strange choice, but
Mhm.
especially because like, come on, you guys are gonna revive him, right?
What if they
We just haven't
don't?
got there yet.
What if they don't?
We get to follow up with Rogue, and boy oh boy is she mad.
She's not happy.
No.
No,
She
not at all.
skipped the funeral
Yeah,
because she's
Right?
so mad. She's like on a tear right now.
Yep.
yeah. So she tracks down Trask, and Henry Gyrich, um, and attacks a military outpost to get information from General Ross. So cool little red Hulk.
Good old General Ross. It's
Yeah.
just
Thunderbolts.
I feel yeah, almost it's almost like General Ross should have had his own series.
Oh, we're gonna get the movie.
Mhm.
Right, right.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so this rogue is like she's gone rogue. She is, like one bad mistake away from being a villain.
Mhm.
Like just out for revenge, not necessarily out for answers, just out for revenge. I know she
Yeah.
like questions him, but it's more so like
Does she
where
really care about the answer?
right, no, not at
No.
all.
Is the
So
question meant to shame and demean him? It's possible.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. The like rogue storyline in this is interesting because I don't know like how it's going to work out for her. Like, is she gonna lean all the way in and then she's gonna be I mean, I guess we don't really know like where Magneto is, if he's gone or not. I would
I mean, we know
assume
at
if
the end of this episode.
yeah, yeah. I assume that like if he were to come back and be like, all right, Rogue, now you're on my side, we're gonna kill all humans, she would be like, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like a dangerous place for her to be in. It's also interesting watching Rogue in like the old show. She was a lot more just like, oh, Rogue's here. She's strong. She can fly and steal people's
Hmm.
powers. Cool. In the comics, it feels a little bit like that too. It's like, oh, Rogue's kind of cool. She can steal people's powers, but also she's like one of the like most powerful mutants, I think, in the comics. And then I think about like the movies, the live action
Oh,
movies, where it was like Rogue was the centerpiece for both the first and the second of those movies.
yeah.
And both times she was just like scared,
Hmm.
terrified to touch anything. She like rarely used her powers. And so then we get this, and it's like, I mean, I guess like movie wise and like uh universe wise, most people know Rogue from the movies, unless you're a comic book fan, but most people know Rogue from the live action movies. So it's like, wow, you
They're
really just like dove
yeah.
dove
I
right into Rogue being
I'm
the
pretty sure
powerful
that
mutant.
was yeah, I'm pretty sure that was one of my first questions after watching the first X-Men live action movie. I was like, that's not Rogue. Like, that's not the Rogue that I know from comics or the animated series. Like, what happened? Like, she could fly and do all this other stuff and didn't get nothing.
Nope,
Nothing.
nope. So I'm interested. Like, a, I know it's like something we talk about a lot, but what does this mean for the MCU for the live action X-Men series? is it related to this? Is this another timeline, another universe, whatever?
The rumor is it's now in development.
So, you
Ooh.
know, like if we get Rogue in that, is it going to be this Rogue, or is it going to be
Oh man.
can't do anything, scared of everything Rogue? Or is she going to show up in Deadpool? I mean, you know, nobody knows. Um, yeah, her storyline in this is interesting because I feel like we're putting her in the place that I thought they would have put Scott in. Because again, I feel like Scott is at least, you know, again, comic book wise, Scott is the one to shift over to being like, no, I'm not siding with Magneto, but I believe Magneto.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
so I definitely would have seen him doing this more than her, but I also understand that like her doing it was because she lost Gambit and uh Magneto.
Mhm.
What was his name?
Yeah.
Eric.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is the other thing that I just don't get with this series. It's you start off in Scotch such a big focus, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
Scott and Jean and Nathan, and now it's what happened to all that? They're just in the background, like
We've had a few episodes away from them, that's for
yeah,
sure.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But we've got 3 episodes coming up to be the finale that surely will be returning to the Scott Jean issue. Maybe Cable. We don't know. I genuinely don't know. I haven't watched the last 3 yet.
I I mean they have to come back. It would be wild for them not to. I
Hmm.
feel like I can get on I don't know. Half of me is like I can get on board with Scott not being the center of attention because in like 90% of X-Men things, he's he's like the X-Men equivalent of Captain America. Like he has to be the one that's there all the time and he's the leader. And I'm just more of a, you know, Wolverine, uh,
He hasn't,
Colossus fan.
yeah, he hasn't really showed too much leadership capabilities this season, though.
Yeah. So like this whole, well, that's what I'm saying. Like this whole series seems to have been like, we're not going to give you the Cyclops that you expect. We're going to give you kind of like I don't know. He gives you like skeevy vibes because he's has this like mind affair with
He's a scroll.
the
He
second
was
Queen.
he was being a good leader and doing nice normal things until the clone gene thing happened. That really threw off his groove.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
like everything happened to Scott at once. They had the baby. He finds out that his baby mama wasn't his actual wife. Baby gets the technovirus, which no one knows what that is. Baby has to go to the future to get cured. He's been going through it. So I'm willing to give him some grace as far as maybe dropping the ball as far as his leadership goes through a fit. uh, whenever the whenever the people were there trying to interview them and mutants, um, and has generally just not really picked up and done what he should be doing in his position. But again, I think we need to just be patient with him.
He's got a
He's
lot going
had
on.
he's
Yeah.
had some stuff come up, and yeah, we can also say like the mind affair with Madeline is skeevy, but also he was kind of married to Madeline for an indeterminate amount of time. We don't know how
Yeah,
long
yeah.
Madeline was his wife,
And they
but
have
also
a
Jean is his
child,
wife. They have a baby,
technically.
not baby from the future, but it's still their baby. And Madeline
Uh,
might be dead. We have established for sure if Madeline is alive or dead.
yeah, so
I
you
suspect
know,
dead, but I don't know.
there's one big moment that happens between the two Cyclop Gene moments in this episode that we'll hop over real quick just to kind of like wrap up their storyline for this episode. But um basically Scott goes to the president and is like, hey, we need help looking for survivors. And the president's like, well, hold on. We need to figure out what our optics are with mutants now. Like, do we like them? Do we don't like them? Um, classic, just I don't know. I feel like in all superhero stuff, the president of the United States is like the real sleazy guy.
Mm.
And it's like, oh, come on, man. Like, anyway,
Yeah.
so he basically goes with Jean and a couple others to go look for survivors. Jean uses her telepathic link to help find people. Um, and they are currently looking for Madeline. They find Emma Frost, who, in everything that I read after watching it and during watching it, they sure make it seem like she didn't know she could turn diamond. And it was like, oh, she got this new mutation because of this event. And it's like, no, that's
No.
always been her mutation. She can have
Right.
diamond skin and also she could read your mind. I don't understand why it became like a, oh, she got a second mutation. No. But we get to see her with her diamond skin, so that's cool. Um Now to go back a little bit to the big moment, I think, for me at least in this episode, which is while Rogue is on her tear, um, or I guess technically we see him before Rogue is on her tear, I think. But Captain America shows up. We
Yep.
get
Yay.
our first like actual non X-Men cameo
Mm.
in this series, and it's good old Cap, um, who's kind of on America's side
Mm-hmm.
with the like, well, what are you guys doing? Like, we want to help, but you have to let us help you. Um, I I I get why it's Cap. It's interesting that it's only Cap. There's nobody with him.
Right.
And do we think that this is going to lead to more people showing up in the series? Or do we think this is just like another nod to this is all part of the same universe now?
Yeah, I think it's a nice setup for like same universe. I think having Cap and General Ross could be a general nod just to the upcoming Captain America movie.
Mm-hmm.
Just a way to kind of build that up. Even though we're getting like Steve Captain America,
Mm-hmm.
like that's the other side of things. So I'm like, where's Falcon? Is he gonna show up?
Right. Yeah, like, and I'm wondering, so for any of you gamers out there, they've finally started releasing more stuff about the new Captain America Black Panther video game. That's supposed to take place during World War II. It kind of seems like from the story trailer for that game that like Cap and uh I think it's like young King T'Challa at the time,
Hmm.
are maybe like butting heads about something. We don't really know what, but basically it's like the rise of Hydra, so they're trying to defeat Hydra. Um, I'm wondering if like this Cap, like if that is going to tie in with the game, and this is a way of them like bringing Captain America back into mainstream stuff that's
Hmm.
going on right now as a way to be like, yeah, look, Cap was just in this thing. Oh, cool. Play this game, buy this game. Because I feel like it could have been anybody that showed up to be like, well, hold on, we want to help. We're also looking on information on Trask, but you can't kill him.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Sure, there are people it couldn't have been. Punisher couldn't have been him. He wouldn't have said that. Um,
See, even you saying that, like, what if it was Tony? See, I just don't know where Tony would really side.
Yeah, but I feel like Tony would at least be like, we got to catch him and figure out what he's doing, not just,
Yeah, it could have been Winter Soldier. Like they could have,
yeah, yeah. And like, what is the
or
timeline?
or he could have been with Cap. Like that would have been cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's another thing that you good point. What timeline is this? Where are we
Yeah.
in time? Has New York happened at this point? Is
Mm,
this pre that? I mean, I guess not because we have Captain America, so it would have to be post that. But how far post that, or has that happened in this universe? Is this a different
Yeah, are
setup?
we in the same universe?
Yeah.
Is this
Yeah.
in the like the not always very good Saturday morning cartoon Marvel era universe with like the Iron Man show that they had the one transformation sequence that they just used over and over again that they
Yeah.
didn't even bother to incorporate properly into the scene?
Yeah. When he like spun, he like
Yeah,
it like
it
went
was just
around
like
him or
spinning. It was a
something.
totally different environment, no matter where he was.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We should review those, but maybe just watch all of them and give it one episode because most of them are quite bad.
I like that idea. Wait, yeah, and it could have been Spider-Man. Where's Peter?
He's not born yet.
He's got a solid
He's
moral
not
conscience.
born
Yeah,
yet.
I mean, maybe not. I don't.
Well, just looking in the location of where they're at too,
Mhm. In
because
the
like I could
snow.
see it being Winter Soldier, potentially the Hulk,
Yeah,
which that would be cool fight. I was thinking Rogue fight the Hulk,
yeah. Like, could she take his gamma?
right?
I don't know.
Oh, that yeah. Um, I just I love like the default for anyone that kind of goes up against Captain America is like, let's just throw his shield as far as we can.
Hmm.
Like, how much of Captain's time is going to go
Chasing
find
down
his
his
shield?
shield. I think about that whenever he like throws it and bounces it off trees and stuff. Because I'm always like,
Yeah.
what if he didn't know that that tree was like almost dead, and it hit that tree and just like bounced off in a direction, and then he just doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've thought about that. Especially watching, I mean, what? It was like a good 2-minute sequence watching Falcon learn how to throw the shield, right?
All right,
So it's
right.
like, there's no way you throw it perfect every time. Um, well, let's get the one storyline in this episode that I was like, all right, I understand its importance, but like at this point, I'm over Roberto and Jubilee. Over them. They haven't done anything in this show except be mildly annoying, complain, and then do nothing about it. Roberto decides he's going to go and confess that he's a mutant, and like hope that his family is okay with it. Um, Surprise, not surprise, I guess. His family isn't not okay with it, but they're also more concerned about people finding out and sort of, again, like the president of the United States, a little more concerned about the optics of mutants in America than they are concerned for his well-being or, like, are you okay? And nothing like that. It was more like, well, don't let anyone see you here. Um, and that was, I mean, that was kind of it for that story. It was
Yeah.
like there's this
Yeah.
weird story that they hit us with immediately in this show that's like, here's this new mutant. He's concerned about people finding out he's a mutant. We don't know what his superpowers are, even though we all know he's Sunspot. Um, and Jubilee was built as like she's going to bring him in because she went through the same thing and she's going to train him, and then they're both going to be part of the X-Men. And none of that has happened. It is literally just like we see both of them. They both complain about wanting to just be teenagers, which like I understand their plight, but what does it add to the show as far as the story that's going on? I don't know. I was like, why is this in this episode? Move along, get back to the story that's going on. I don't know if like again, playing up to the like what's happening next. What is happening next? Is are they a part of the show? Are they a part of the story? Is he going to become Sunspot at some point? Or is it just like when they need to fill an extra 2 minutes, they're like, no, don't forget. Jubilee's playing video games in her room and Sunspot is making sure people don't know he's a mutant.
maybe his parents' company that they're so worried about the stocks war will wind up being important. Maybe they'll be allied with the government and they'll like give them aid to use against mutants or something like that.
Yeah, I mean
Because
that'd be
they made a big deal about the stocks, which no one, okay. Nothing makes me tune out of a movie or a TV show quicker than talking about finance. Like I don't care anything about stocks or bonds or money or people with money. Like I'm not into it. I don't care.
yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe that's where Trask is getting his money. Maybe it's his company.
Mm.
Good twist. It would bring a full circle to the story, but also at the same time, let him do something. Let Jubilee be cool and useful. Let Roberto like accept being Sunspot and be a cool mutant and join the mutants. I just don't understand the like we're gonna keep showing them, but we're not gonna let them do anything. Like the one time we saw Jubilee do stuff, it was all in a game, and also the whole point of that entire episode was that she was bummed that she couldn't go to the mall for her birthday. Like let them be part of the story. I don't understand. It's like having characters in a movie or a book that are there and they keep showing up, but there's no reason. They don't affect the story in any way.
Right.
But just imagine if you could go to a mall in the 90s again, wouldn't that be the best day of your life?
Yeah. Malls are coming back, you know. They're
They are?
popular. They're
Are
Where
they?
popular.
at?
Are they?
Well, here in Austin, at least, the malls are
Oh,
popular again.
I need to go back. I need to go back. I need to go to a cool mall.
Oh, they're not cool. They're just always full of people again.
Is it for us? Is it for old people? Do they
No,
have our stores?
it's a lot of young. It's a lot of young people just hanging out at the mall.
Mm.
Um,
Bring back like someone needs to buy a mall, and then all it needs to be is just like recreating like all the classic stores, like just for like that nostalgia of walking through of like remembering going into all these different stores.
I was talking to a friend of mine about the mall here in town, and I was like, the only thing that like I feel like I miss when I walk through it is there's no, how like every mall had like a weird spiritual store that sold like crystals and rocks and like dream catchers.
Mm.
Yes.
And no one ever bought anything in that store, but you would always see it. Maybe you'd walk around it and be like, look at all this stuff. It doesn't have one of those. And I was like, oh, where's that store?
Well,
Um,
Hermo still has that.
to I guess rein it back in. Um, the final big piece of this episode was Mr. Sinister. He's here. He is sort of the one running this, but also we find out he's not the one running this. Um, I don't know what to do with this. Like it feels like they're trying to say that the villains are working together,
But
sort
which
of.
villains?
Yeah,
And
we
how
don't.
many?
Right.
It's almost like you think of like Spider-Man Sinister Six. Like, is there just whole room full of bad guys that we haven't seen that are just making some huge plan against the X-Men?
There's references to Madripoor again in this episode. I'm wondering, like, is there some sort of crime syndicate that is causing all of this chaos? And it's maybe a couple, like, more of the like anti-mutant like villains
All
that are.
Kingpin. Kingpin's running it all.
I mean, maybe,
Mm.
maybe. Well, oh no, I guess she's not in Madripoor anymore. I was like, isn't Shang-Chi's
Oh,
sister running
yeah.
Madripoor now? But I guess
Mm.
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Well, we need a new Shang-Chi movie. Like, why have
We
we not gotten
do.
Yeah.
that yet?
Like what's going on in that world? Um, but yeah, I feel like the Mr. Sinister surprise that like he's working with these other villains was like, okay, why? Like, I get that, like, his whole thing is that he wants to, like, create the perfect human or body or whatever his goal is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it seems like a goal that wouldn't necessarily line up with other people that are just trying to exterminate. So, where is he in the hierarchy of this group? Is he in the middle? Is he in the bottom? Is he at the top? I feel like he's not at the top. Definitely feels like he's taking orders from someone.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we know that like Rogue sees something referencing like OZT, so that's gonna have to come into play in
mhm.
some way, like
Yeah.
understanding what this could be.
Um, in my notes I've written it means Operation Zero Tolerance. And all the notes I have at the bottom of this page are extremely chaotic because I talk about how Rogue has finally tracked down this doctor guy. He wants to jump off the building. Rogue is going to let him die. Is fully willing to just let him die, which is a very dark moment for her. Then it turns out he's not real, he's a robot, and that there are human sentinels. And then it turns out Sinister is working for somebody else, like you guys have been saying. We find out Magneto is alive. And
Yeah, like
also that, yeah, he's just there. He's been alive this whole time. And then we find out Bastion is kind of in charge of everything, which I don't know Bastion. I don't know him at all. I just know that this is finally the character we've been waiting for that's voiced by Theo James.
Yes, he is revealed. Bastion, I don't know a whole lot about Bastion either. I'm interested to see, like, is it just him and Mr. Sinister? Or are there other villains? Like, it's still kind of loose as to like what the plan is and why.
mhm,
Um I do, so the like human sentinels thing was like, that's exciting because I've been waiting for them to like they did it in Agents of Shield, but as we all know, that show was axed from, like, severed from the MCU for reasons unknown to anybody. Um but in that show they introduced the idea of life model decoys, which is like Shield's version of
mhm.
robotic people doubles.
Interesting.
So like, if okay, Nick Fury is in space, but Nick Fury it needs to appear like Nick Fury is not in space, and in fact he's on Earth. They would use an a like model decoy of him that walks around and does everything that he would do on Earth. Um, so this like revelation made me feel like, oh, is this gonna be like an introduction or like getting everybody primed for there to be life model decoys? I feel like we're already primed that way because of uh Secret Wars or Secret Invasion. So
Mm,
it's like,
mm.
we already are like, who's who?
Who's
Are you an
yeah,
actual person or are you a scroll? Like, we don't know.
right.
Um so this is like adding another layer of like, are you who you say you are? Are you a scroll? Are you a human sentinel? Are you a life model decoy? Are you a clone of yourself? Like, now there are 5 different things that you could be at any time. So it's getting harder and harder to believe
Too
that
much.
anyone is anyone.
It's like you can't trust anyone.
Yeah. So I definitely see them leaning a little heavier on that trust aspect of like, do you side with people that you think will do the right thing or what you want them to do, or are you only going to stick to the core group of people that you trust, because that's going to be huge moving forward, especially once we get back to the live action universe stuff where we basically left off with introducing the fact that Skrulls are here and also they can take over
Mm-hmm.
your spot.
Hmm.
So now, with that being sort of brought into this with these like humanoid sentinels, who else could be a sentinel and not who they say they are? what are their limits on their like abilities? Can they copy abilities? Could Nightcrawler not be Nightcrawler? Could that be a human sentinel with the ability to teleport? Like, it's getting crazy out
Wild.
there.
It's a lot. It's a lot to process. And
As
then
much,
now the Avengers are here, maybe.
right.
Like,
And as much as I'm so
are they the
excited,
Avengers?
so excited for Deadpool 3, like, I cannot wait for that movie. With the same amount of excitement, I cannot wait for the next live action Marvel Universe movie because I just want to know, where are we going? What are we
Mhm,
doing?
mhm.
What is the next project that we're even going to get? And I'm not counting Craven. Does
Is
not
Craven
matter.
ever going to be released? Is what I want.
Yeah. Did you see their latest note around the re-release? So it's coming
No.
out in December now. And the comment was like, we expect that people are gonna watch this multiple times. So they wanted to put it out during holiday. And I'm just like,
Who wants to watch it multiple
okay.
times?
So it's like, are we that confident in the movie itself, or is it gonna have a post-credit scene so incredible, and that's the only reason why you want to go watch it?
I barely want to watch it once. So on that note, I
I think
guess uh,
you're on the least to want to see it a few times.
if you were waiting for us to do an episode of Madam Web, I guess now we can do it because that movie is
It's now
streaming. So I will
streaming on
watch
Netflix.
it now that I don't have to outright pay for it.
Yeah.
Uh yeah. So yeah, I'm not counting that one. I want to know what the next like actual live action piece of content we are getting from Marvel that is related to the actual MCU. Um because yeah,
And
I'm
it's hard
interested.
to tell if we'll even get any kind of clue or indication from Deadpool 3, because I'm pretty
Right.
sure, well, who knows? You just don't know with Ryan and his team of like what's true and what's not. Because
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure I read like he wanted this to not really be like the MCU we know, so there would not be a mid-credit scene, post-credit scene.
Hmm.
It's just going to be the movie itself, and it's pretty much, what is it, like shutting down Fox and
Yeah, yeah.
studios and kind of going anti like Marvel, Disney, MCU of like everything
Yeah.
that you know.
I did see like so they've been putting out trailers like left and right, and every single
Hmm.
trailer is like cut differently, but it's not really new footage.
Right.
Um, but there was one that was like him, and I don't even think he was in a suit. I think it was just Ryan Reynolds, and
Hmm.
he was basically like, "Yeah, everyone that's gonna be waiting for an end credit scene, don't bother. There's not
Don't
one."
bother. Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, interesting." Also, is this a joke? Is
Yeah.
there an end credit scene? Like, I feel like I have to wait just in case.
Hmm.
Um,
Is it just shoved in the middle of the movie, like
It's
totally incongruously?
that's probably what that's probably what it's gonna be. Is he's gonna walk into some room and in some corner is gonna be a TV playing, and on that TV is the mid-credit scene.
yeah. So,
Also, uh he was like, I guess he was like at a premiere for If, and they I think it was either Letterbox or someone asked him about the popcorn bucket, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm working on it. Just wait." So like, what are we gonna get?
yeah, I will link, um, I will actually link. I keep saying it and I forget to do it every time. I'll actually link. Uh, if you buy your tickets now at an Alamo Draft House, you can pre-order and reserve yourself one of the Deadpool Wolverine uh mugs. I guess they're not mugs. I keep saying mugs. They're pint glasses.
Nice.
Um, and so I'll post a link. So any of you that live anywhere close to an Alamo
And
can.
Alamo Draft House, if you want to sponsor us
Hmm.
and send us each one of these, like
That'd be
that
great.
would be great.
Even send
Hmm.
us like an extra one that we can give away. Um,
Ooh, we love a giveaway.
yeah, I
I will fly to Austin to go to an Alamo Draft House. Just let them know if they're listening.
They really like being tagged and stuff, so
Please, like
we'll definitely tag them.
we will tag them.
But yeah, I mean that's kind of this episode. It's exciting to know that Magneto's back, but also like what's he been doing?
But it's yeah, that whole it's the same effect of like bringing Charles back. It's just like, wait, I feel like we need another episode. Like, what really happened there? Like, how is he
Mhm.
back? Like, that's the other frustrating thing is not giving us like the full story of like it's like, oh, hey, here he is.
Mhm. Yeah, it definitely
Cool.
feels like they, somebody somewhere had a bigger plan for this and
Hmm.
it got shortened.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess we'll find out. Uh, as for, the overall this episode, I enjoyed it. Um, I thought it was a good way to follow episode 5. So if you for whatever reason are listening to this episode before you watch the show, I would watch episode 5, then episode 7, then episode 6, then you can continue.
Yeah.
Um
I mean, yeah, if just imagine that. You're episode 5 with that ending, and then you go into this episode and you're seeing Captain America.
right. Right, yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's just it never stops.
yeah.
um yeah, so I think overall this episode was up there for me for this season so far. Because I just feel like it was a good way to see what everyone like the emotions that everyone was going through
Yeah.
after what happened in episode 5.
Mhm. Yeah.
Whereas I feel like episode 4 was like solely focused on two people, or not 4. Episode 6 was solely focused on two people and what they were doing and
Mhm.
had little to nothing to do with episode 5. But it was like it was such a big episode.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Yeah, this one leaves you excited for sure because now you're kind of understanding for the most part where things are going. I do feel like there's some storylines with characters kind of still hanging there. Like maybe we'll get some conclusion to some things, but at least now we kind of know we're leading into a big bad.
mhm.
We're about to go into like X-Men fighting Bastion. So yeah, excited to see what happens next.
On that note, we can go to our question from last week, which was Mr. Sinister as the villain or someone else as the villain. Um, this episode kind of did that for us in saying that, like, yeah, Mr. Sinister's here, but he's not the villain. He's just one of the villains. So I think my personal answer, just because I really like reading Weapon X stories, would be Weapon X being the villain.
Mhm.
Um, Especially like the later comics, like they make like a Hulk that has adamantium claws and like bones that
Mhm.
stick out of him and stuff, and it's like crazy. And then like basically everyone from Weapon X has to get together as a team to hunt him down because he's like destroying it. So cool. What a cool storyline. So I think my answer would have been Weapon X to be like the ultimate bad guy, because that could have tied him with Trask and his
Mhm.
Sentinels, and they work with, along similar gray lines.
Yeah.
So that,
I can see that.
that's my
See,
answer.
I've always thought Mr. Sinister was cool growing up. I always enjoyed like collecting the cards of Mr. Sinister, and I wish I wouldn't mind seeing him being like the big bad here, but giving him more episodes, building up more of like what is he up to, what's in his mind, like where is he wanting to go? Because like now it just we're kind of thrown into like where is he really spitting all this? Is he a
Mhm.
bad part of like a bad guy team? Um, is he helping someone else out? Is he being used for some other kind of ploy, or does he have his own agenda? We don't really know.
Right.
But I wish we could have gotten a little bit more into just his world and kind of what he's going for.
Agreed. How about you, Elisa? Do you have anyone that you would want them to go against?
Well, since I've had time to think about it, one single bit of sense for X-Men 97, because it would be in the wrong timeline. There was a period of time in Marvel Comics where the president was Stephen Colbert. And since we know that the X-Men have regular clashes with the American government, I think it would have been a lot of fun and probably very appreciated by noted nerd Stephen Colbert to have him be one of their big bad villains.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Since we've seen Captain America, who's the next non-X-Men you want to see?
That's good. Let's go with that one. Yeah, so let us know your answers on our social media. You'll hear our answers next week. And boy, oh boy, do I have an answer, because it was who I wanted to see all along. So thank you all for listening this week. We're going to continue, obviously, next week. We have 3 more episodes, so we're getting closer to the end. I literally have no idea what is happening. Like, I don't know if this story is going to end. I don't know if it's going to end on a cliffhanger and leave us wanting more from season 2. I feel like the original show did a pretty good job of like making the stories one season. Like, all the arcs were one season. At the end of that season, that story ended. Then they would maybe tease the next arc. But so I'm interested to see how this show is going to continue that. But yeah, did we miss anything from anyone's notes?
No, we hit all the high level things, I mean, outside of that, probably some general nods that lead to like some comic related things, but yeah, outside of those, like we hit all the high points.
Cool. Well, thank you all for listening this week. Be sure to check in next week as we continue our watch through of X-Men 97. And who knows, maybe we'll, talk about what we're going to watch next, or hit you with some new, whatever the new Deadpool Wolverine trailer is. I feel like I'm sure we'll get one before next week.
It feels like we'll have 2 new ones before next Friday. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.